After 2 years of feeling like soul mates, my girlfriend, a twice-divorced single mom, broke up over the phone claiming I needed to take more responsibility. I showered her and her kids with affection 40K in expenses, but she never appreciated it. "You don't earn enough," she said while I wore down to a shadow of my former self. Was I just her financial crutch? Now I'm left questioning everything. I have recently ended my relationship with my girlfriend, and it has been about a month since the breakup. I would appreciate some external perspective on how I should reflect on the relationship. I have posted about this previously. I am a 34-year-old male doctor earning $150,000 per year. I am currently single and own a spacious house. At the beginning of the relationship, I could not drive, but I learned how to do so. Now I own a car worth $100,000. I do not go out very often, and I pride myself on being loyal and sensible. I come from a working-class background but have a very supportive family, and my parents are still together. I have a large, loving family that continues to grow. My ex-girlfriend is twice divorced and is a single mother with 2 children. She earned between $35,000 and $50,000 annually. Initially, she drove a modest small car but upgraded to a Tesla during our relationship, which was likely around $30,000. She is from Ukraine and her parents are divorced. She does not see her father, and her brother struggles with addiction in another country. She has a vast network of friends who frequently come and go from her life, along with a few very stable and wealthy friends who sometimes treat her to vacations. We began dating 2 years ago, and the chemistry we shared was extraordinary both in conversation and intimacy. We engaged in activities together and often felt like soulmates, particularly when cooking. Throughout our entire relationship, I was the one who paid for everything. I spent over $40,000 covering all dinners, drinks, activities, day trips, and 2 holidays abroad, which cost between $3,000 and $4,000 each. I also occasionally helped her with minor car repairs. For her birthdays, I consistently spent 2 to 4 times the amount she spent on me. I organized and financed all activities we did with her and her children, such as trips to Alton Towers, fireworks displays, and theme parks. At times, she truly felt like a soulmate. During the first year, it felt like a magical relationship. Although the financial burden was challenging, I could not drive at the time, so she would travel 55 minutes to see me, stay at my place for 2 to 3 days, and I would cover all expenses, including food, restaurants, spas, and gym passes. Unfortunately, everything fell apart in the last year of our relationship. I had to be more prudent with money for a few months due to a temporary 80% reduction in my earnings, which made me more cautious overall, a change she did not appreciate or acknowledge. I continued to pay for everything, and despite the financial strain, even funded 2 holidays. On our first holiday, she contributed absolutely nothing, even after I asked if she could cover a drink or a cab ride to make things feel more balanced. At that time, she claimed she couldn't afford it, but a few months later, she bought a new Tesla and continued to have her hair and nails done. Our breakup stemmed from her feelings that 1. I did not take responsibility. 2. She became very jealous after I passed my driving test in the last 6 months of the relationship. 3. I was not present enough in her life. 4. She stopped driving to see me. She was also quite demanding. She insisted that I purchase a 500 coffee machine for my house, claiming it was the least I could do to make her comfortable. I always tried to ensure her comfort, and I eventually bought the coffee machine. I frequently treated her to lobster, smoked salmon, oysters, and crab steak, expensive items I would not typically purchase or that I knew most of my friends consume regularly. Eventually, she sought therapy, during which her therapist informed her that she was abusing me and that she exhibited narcissistic tendencies. When she shared this with me, she acknowledged that I could cause her pain but suggested that breaking up with me would not help her, without caring about the impact it would have on me. I began to physically and mentally neglect myself. I transformed from a doctor with a six-pack and dressed in a suit, shirt, and glasses to someone who appeared like a depressed older man. My family became quite concerned. I started wearing trainers, mismatched socks, a Christmas sweater, and whatever chinos I could find. It was unusual for me. I stopped training as well. Financially, I ceased buying or eating enjoyable foods from Monday to Wednesday, knowing she would come over on Wednesday or Thursday and stay until Saturday. I thought it prudent to save my money for those days. There were many beautiful moments with her on the beach, at the water park, and during intimate times together, but in retrospect, I feel I should not harbor warm or regretful feelings about it. Instead, I should recognize it for what it was: financial abuse and an affection based on materialistic desire. Should I think differently? I am very wary that her therapist was probably correct. I might have been abused by a narcissist. I was foolish not to see it during the relationship, and I am still completely shocked that she confessed to me that she was the abuser and narcissist. Yet I hugged, consoled, and kissed her instead of prioritizing my own well-being. I experienced numerous instances of her demeaning behavior toward me. As a qualified, high-earning doctor, she told me, 1. I needed to earn more money to support a family and should feel pressured to do so. 2. Despite her children loving and adoring how I played with them, she belittled it by saying, they must see you as a friend. I am very good with children as I had many younger cousins. 3. She would demean my car, stating it felt uncomfortable. It is a Mercedes S-Class. She appeared genuinely jealous of it. This was evident when she called me last week while I was attempting to return her belongings. She made a strange comment. You said you'd never drive your beautiful car into the city, which is something I would never say. 4. She insisted that my priority should be to make her happy and buy her things. 5. She sometimes compared me to her ex or other people who have partners that pay for even more expenses. 6. She belittled me for not being able to drive. However, once I did obtain my license, she pressured me to drive to places or destinations when I was still lacking confidence. Within a month, I became confident and was driving everywhere. 7. Whatever I did, she would compare it to something larger. For instance, I spent $3,000 on a holiday in Greece, and upon arriving, she remarked that she would have loved me to take her to France. 8. Nothing in my house was satisfactory for her. I own a large house valued at nearly $800,000, whereas she lives in a very small, modest home worth approximately $250,000. My dining table is enormous, overlooks a lovely view, and provides a great workspace. She would criticize it, claiming it was not nice enough and lacked adequate space to work, despite my house being 4 times the size of hers and possessing ample working spaces and desks larger than most dining tables. This is not meant as bragging, but I found it frustrating that she was never satisfied or happy. 9. She would lie and claim I only saw her children every 6 months, which was untrue. I bought them birthday gifts, Christmas presents, and even gifts for one child on the other's birthday so they would not feel left out. I let them stay at my house, hosted barbecues, participated in water fights, and bought them small gifts. I spent time playing with them during social gatherings instead of talking to the adults, assisted with their homework, FaceTimed them, played Roblox with them, which was incredibly boring, took them to fireworks displays, Alton Towers, activity parks, and the park, and even babysat one of them. Despite all this, I was told, they see you as a friend, not an adult. Throughout the entire relationship, she criticized me frequently. I never once criticized her or demanded anything from her. The turning point that served as a significant reality check for me occurred when she booked a holiday with her friend without me, without asking or informing me in advance. When I expressed that I felt it was unjust, considering she could have contributed toward our third holiday, she said she organized the trip because she had mentioned it, and I did not respond. She claimed that my response should have been, I am happy for you. Here is some spending money, and next month let me arrange a vacation for both of us. This coincided with my grandfather's declining health. The week after she returned from her holiday with her friend, she attended a bachata dance event in my city. She texted me that she was in town but did not come to my house. At that time, I was with my grandfather, who passed away at 1:30 a.m. She texted me, irritated that I did not pay for a taxi to bring her from the city to my house, stating that was the only way she would visit me under the circumstances. When I informed her via text that my grandfather had died, she simply said, sorry for your loss, I send my condolences to your family. There was no phone call, no inquiry about how I was feeling, and no apology to provide even a slight comfort, just a text akin to what a colleague would send. The next day, she did not reach out to me. I had to call her to attempt to mend things, but at that moment, I realized she was not there for me as I would have been for her in that situation. I spoke to her after our breakup, and she told me she needed to accept me for who I am, which is someone who does not want to take responsibility. She refused to meet with me in person, breaking up over the phone after a 2-year relationship. I found this very demeaning, given my financial commitment and my understanding of taking on a woman with 2 children despite my situation. To be honest, I genuinely loved her, and having limited relationship experience, I developed a deep affection for her. However, everyone keeps telling me she was a narcissist and a user, suggesting that I need to view her with a realistic perspective instead of a misguided emotional one. What are your thoughts and reality checks? My family is concerned that I might eventually return to her or leave the door open. My father revealed that he found the bag of baby toys I bought for them last December for Christmas. He went home and cried because he felt I was in the process of squandering my life by dating a single mother and taking on 2 children when I was the pride of our family and so successful. He stated it broke him and tore him apart for months, but he never mentioned it before because he knew I was very loyal and devoted to her. Is this a relationship I need to firmly close and only reflect on with brutal realism rather than affection? Should I simply throw away her belongings if she refuses to collect them? I have followed my heart for the past 2 years, but I realize I can no longer do so. I understand it has been misguided in certain aspects, and even typing this makes me realize how foolish I have been. Should I reevaluate the relationship and her for what she truly is? If so, how would you characterize her? This is an entirely accurate representation of the relationship. I have provided only factual details. The mention of monetary amounts is significant, as the expenditures were not insignificant, and the activities I engaged in with the children were also meaningful. Story 2. My anxious girlfriend cries, "You don't love me," during fights over dinner and marriage plans while I question if I'm the one who's unloving. After years of therapy and heartache, is this relationship worth saving, or am I just her emotional punching bag? Post. Summary: I genuinely care for this woman and desire for our relationship to succeed, but we encounter at least one disagreement each week, and fewer than 25% of these conflicts resolve in a constructive manner. She has generalized anxiety disorder and tends to be very emotionally dependent, often engaging in what feels like trauma dumping regularly. I have expressed my willingness to support her, but at times I feel emotionally exhausted by these recurring situations. Consequently, I have repeatedly suggested that she see a therapist or talk to her family or friends. Even when I do everything possible to soothe her, it often falls short, leading her to feel angry or hurt because I cannot provide adequate comfort and reassurance. When she is upset, she expects me to understand that it stems from her feelings of being unloved and anticipates that I will rush to hug and comfort her. However, her expression of anger makes me feel attacked, causing my defenses to rise, making it challenging to meet her needs. A recent difficult conversation arose from her anxiety about being in her early to mid-30s and her strong desire for marriage and children. She understandably checks in with me every few months to discuss my feelings regarding the timeline for these significant milestones. When she inquired the last time, I expressed my deep love for her and my desire to spend my life with her. Although I believe the one-year timeline she wants is possible, I emphasize that we must first address our serious communication and relationship issues before we can think more seriously about having children. This response left her very hurt, and she accused me of not loving her, claiming I was stringing her along, with anger in her eyes as she began to cry uncontrollably. I do my best to comfort her and eventually help her calm down. Conversations like this typically evolve into 30-minute discussions about her feelings of being hurt, unseen, and invalidated. I acknowledge that I can sometimes be avoidant or not entirely present. I also recognize that I tend to be a logical thinker with a stoic personality. She has expressed that she often perceives this as being cold and uncaring. That said, she can also be triggered by things that seem trivial to me. For instance, one evening she prepared dinner, frozen Trader Joe's orange chicken, and I thanked her for it. We both agreed that it was not as crunchy as we prefer, so I mentioned that I usually cook it for 5 extra minutes. She felt hurt by this comment, and it led to a lengthy argument. I did not validate her feelings as much as she needed because, quite frankly, I found it absurd. This angered her, and she distanced herself from me for the rest of the evening, giving me the silent treatment. She went to bed without saying good night and closed her door, as we sleep in separate bedrooms due to my snoring. She typically goes to bed before I do, and one way she likes me to express my love for her is by cuddling her for a few minutes when she gets into bed before I return to relax in another room. After our disagreement, however, I felt no desire to cuddle with her. I explained that I was hurt and needed space, so I was not in the mood for cuddling. She began to cry and conveyed that it felt as though I was punishing her. She expressed that our relationship involves me providing her with conditional love when she is in a good mood, but withholding affection when she is upset, which feels like punishment to her. She continued, "If your child threw a temper tantrum and misbehaved, you wouldn't deny them a hug and a good night kiss, would you?" I responded that this situation was entirely different, as one involves a child while the other involves an adult. This response set her off further. Should a good partner be willing to offer comfort and shower their partner with affection, even when that partner is unkind? She often claims she feels unloved or bursts into tears, and I cannot help but feel that these reactions stem from maladaptive childhood experiences of seeking love from unresponsive parents. Another instance occurred when I took her out to dinner and she wore lounge clothes. I merely looked at her, did not make any facial expression, nor did I voice any disapproval, yet she responded with anger, asserting that I disapproved of her outfit. I assured her that she looked fine for dinner and mentioned that I was also dressed casually, so there was no need for concern. She was upset because I did not tell her she looked beautiful. I felt frustrated because we were preparing for a pleasant dinner, yet we found ourselves embroiled in another argument over a perceived slight that her anxiety detected but which was unfounded. She was upset because I failed to say or do something exactly as she wished. I have reached a point where I feel at my wit's end and am nearly disconnected from the relationship, contemplating an end. I cannot shake the notion that we may be fundamentally incompatible. Clearly, I cannot alter my behavior to make her feel secure and loved, nor can I manage her emotional instability and her inability to self-soothe. My partner, 34 years old, female, diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and prescribed 50 mg of Zoloft, which she is instructed to take once daily. Her doctor had also prescribed an additional pill for severe meltdowns, though I have forgotten its name, and it appears she has discarded those as well. A month and a half ago, she decided to break her Zoloft pills in half and take only half doses. When she informed me of this decision, she requested that I never use it against her or try to persuade her to resume full doses, as she wants to discontinue the medication when she is able. Undoubtedly, there has been increased turmoil since she made this change without consulting her doctor, and she does not see them regularly. Although she previously attended individual therapy regularly before we met, she began a new job after we started dating and has since reduced her therapy sessions significantly. She initially committed to seeing a therapist twice weekly, but over the last 3 months she has only had 4 sessions. She has acknowledged her anxious attachment style. Me, 37 years old male. I recognize that I am not perfect either. While I have a strong desire for a wife and lifelong partner, I can be quite selective. I have experienced several relationships, including a few that lasted longer. The longest was 3 years. My previous girlfriend noted that, although I treated her well throughout our relationship, I did not evoke the emotional responses she desired due to my lack of emotional vulnerability. In that relationship, we rarely disagreed, and when we did, we managed to resolve conflicts constructively, leaving both of us feeling understood rather than hurt. I was raised in a family that rarely discussed feelings. That being said, I have evolved significantly and am comfortable opening up with most partners. However, I find it challenging with my current partner, as she interprets anything I say that is not positive as a personal attack, causing me to repress my feelings increasingly. Notably, she regularly critiques my words and actions or lack thereof, and I typically receive this feedback without feeling hurt or defensive. I possess some traits of avoidant attachment, but believe I fall somewhere between avoidant and secure attachment. My avoidant tendencies have become more apparent recently, as I am drained by the lengthy and frequent emotionally charged conversations in which she demands support. I have attended a dozen individual therapy sessions since beginning to date her to better understand her and improve our relationship. This was my first experience with therapy, which I pursued for us, yet she frequently criticizes me for not trying hard enough to meet her needs. Additional background. We initially dated for 5 months. Things began smoothly, although moving slightly faster than most of my previous relationships. From the outset, I realized that she was highly sensitive and struggled to self-regulate her emotions. About a month after the honeymoon phase ended, she broke up with me, stating that she did not feel loved. After the breakup, I found some relief and peace initially, but then I began to miss her. She reached out and we reconnected. Since September, we have been back together, and things went well enough that we decided to see each other more frequently. She brought clothes to my place and started spending every night at my apartment while still maintaining her apartment. While things continued to progress positively, some of the same issues began resurfacing weekly. However, she expressed the desire to move into a larger space, stating that my one-bedroom apartment was too small for us. As a result, we began searching for an apartment together. In hindsight, I cannot shake the feeling that she may have subconsciously manipulated the situation, using tears to hasten the process before I was ready. We ultimately signed a lease together that began in mid-January. It has been approximately 3.5 weeks, yet since the very beginning, it seems as though matters have worsened. We have experienced more frequent push-pull arguments, leading to heightened emotions and increasingly prolonged conversations. During this time of living together, we have attended couples therapy and have had around 8 sessions. Almost every session has ended with her feeling hurt and either angry or distant towards me afterward. Although therapists are typically impartial, I cannot help but feel that the therapist highlights many more issues on her side than on mine. The therapist has also echoed my encouragement for her to resume more regular sessions with her personal therapist. What are your thoughts? Clearly, this relationship is not healthy. Do you think we have any hope of resolving these issues? I am profoundly confused by her behavior and sometimes suspect she may have borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder. as her mood can shift dramatically from happiness to intense anger over relatively minor incidents, resulting in a silent treatment that can last for 12 hours until she finally returns, apologizes, cries, and acts as if nothing has transpired. I would appreciate any advice or support.